This is the Little Moments Count radio podcast, created in partnership with community radio stations throughout Minnesota. Each episode, you'll hear interviews with early childhood experts on how to support the important brain development that takes place in the first 1,000 days of life, just through little moments every day. Learn more at littlemomentscount.org/podcast.
It's a good day to be Indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Kadagi to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local, national, Native news and events, and as you know, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues. Hey, this episode of Native Roots Radio is presented in partnership with Little Moments Count and Minnesota Public Radio. Little Moments Count is a statewide collaborative focused on helping parents and caregivers learn about the importance of brain development in the first 3 years of life. Nearly 80% of the brain growth happens in the first 1,000 days, and small moments of interaction like talking, playing, reading, and singing help create pathways that build a child's brain during the early stage of life. Hey, I want to introduce our friend Barb Fabre, and you're the CEO of Indigenous Visioning and All Nations Rise. I'm so glad to see you. As always, happy holidays, and great to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Bonjour. I'm always happy to be here and see you all.
Hey, I got a couple of questions to ask you, but before we get going here, I just want to say, the work that you do for our young ones, and as you know, Barb, we have our grandchildren over here twice a week, and just seeing the growth, and I think about Little Moments Count, and I think about your Indigenous box and the work that you've been doing all these years in a good way, and so I just want to say a big Pinigigi thank you for coming on the show. And, the work that you do with Indigenous Visioning and All Nations Rise, too. Just thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, miigwech. It's always an honor to be here, and always happy to talk about good things happening in Indian country. Little Moments Count, we're a partner, and we absolutely love them and their messaging about brain development. It is so critical that we read to them babies at least 3 times a day. It'll benefit their adult life. I promise you.
Right. And I think in years past, we've talked, or shows past, I should say, that we've talked about how many words that people learn and in their early development, and how important that is to learn all those words. I have my little granddaughters saying wow all the time, and I'm just going, I guess that is a word, but she says it in so many different ways. It seems like more than one word. But I want to get into, what is the Indigenous Parent Leadership Initiative, and why did you start it?
Sure. I was happy to talk about that. Well, I come across it many years ago, like 2014, and I met some of the parents that went through it and heard their story, and many of their stories sounded like our stories. And I heard, from them, the testimonial and how impactful the Parent Leadership Initiative really is. And so that's what prompted me to say and promise to myself that I got to get that to my tribe. And it took a little while, but we were able to do it. And Indigenous Parent Leadership Initiative that we indigenized, it's a westernized civics course, and we indigenized it for tribal communities. So we added a lot about tribal systems in there. We know that there's a trauma out there, and we've all experienced trauma. So we're also very careful and respectful to make sure that we are not re-triggering our parents as we go through this, because they too have been through a lot. And I'm just so proud of every single one of them. I get the pleasure of interviewing them before they start the class and to ask them why they joined. And many of them told me that it's because they heard from, a friend or a coworker or a relative that was in it before, and they seen the changes and they want that for themselves.
Yeah, how long is your program that you work with these parents that joined your program? How many weeks is that program?
It's a 23-week program, and that includes a retreat, the initial 8 hours that we spend with them. And then we go through nightly classes, 4 hours every night, and we feed them, we provide childcare. And then the end of it is we do a graduation. And it's a formal graduation, and it is absolutely beautiful. There's not a dry eye, and there's so much pride happening in that room. So it's just an amazing program or initiative. And many of the parents that I've talked to in there, they've said it was the best decision they ever made. So when they tell me that, when parents from my own res are telling me that, then it just empowers me even more to, make sure we can spread it throughout Indian country. And that's what we're trying to do with the state of Minnesota.
Yeah. If I remember right, you provide free and meals and childcare, and what else do you provide for these young learners and through your program?
So we start out, it's a self-discovery. So they find out, their vulnerabilities, they find out their strengths, and they themselves have ideas where they know like public speaking is not something that it comes natural for some. So we try to provide them with all those skills. They all have these wonderful skills, but they just need to be honed in. And if they didn't do public speaking, before, after the class, they are ready to do public speaking. And that's the beauty of this. It transforms them not into just informed and empowered parents. It turns them into an advocate, a lifelong advocate for children, for their child, their neighbor's children. So it's kind of a almost rebirth, if you want to think of that, because they realized they had this power all along. And just to see them, some of them where they are now, is just amazing.
Well, most of us have some kind of trauma through boarding school and all those things that, our grandparents or even our parents weren't good at hugging and telling them they love us. And so this is so important, the work that you do, because it's something that we all long for, and you give it through this great organization.
Yeah, and it I don't think we do anything. It's the curriculum and that self-discovery that really kicks in. And after they realize what they can do, they have, like I said, they all have these skills. It's just they're buried. Some may be buried that have never been used. And so when they graduate, they're ready to go sit at these tables and provide testimony on lived experiences, on systems and policies that affect them, and they have a voice. They found their voice, so they don't feel as vulnerable.
This is exciting. Let's talk more and take a quick break here. We're with Barb Fabre, the CEO of Indigenous Visioning and All Nations Rise, and we're talking about Little Moments Count and the great work that you do with your people, and we got more to talk about this. So this is Native Roots Radio, and we'll be right back after this short break. Please stay with us. Hoa! Hey, welcome back, everyone. And this is our Little Moments Count show. This episode of Native Roots Radio is presented in partnership with Little Moments Count and Minnesota Public Radio. And we are here with our friend Barb. Barb, so much going on, but yet, you guys are doing such good work, and the parents are doing such good work. It's really good with the things that are going around nationally. It's really good to be able to talk to you about this stuff and really put a good light on what's happening with your community and the community impact and change. Welcome back, and can you share a success story of how a parent who completed your program went on to make positive changes in their community? Do you have a cool story that you could tell us?
One of the staff, one of my staff, I actually hired one of our graduates, and she has her own personal story of why she joined IPLI, and it was a moment when she was very vulnerable. She decided to, she dumped all her drugs down the toilet and just went cold turkey, stayed in her home for a long time until she seen our flyer. And she joined the class. And I have seen her grow over the last 3 years. She went back to school. She's got a new relationship. She's expecting a new baby. We just hired her. She graduated in May with her social work degree. She's got her own house, and it's, things are just really, have turned around for her in a short 4 years, but that's because, she was determined to begin with, but then IPLI just gave her the tools and the empowerment to take control of her life. And so that one person had such the impact on that one person. I'm watching it every day because I get to work with her, and I see the growth, I see the pride, I see how much she wants other parents to be in the program, because she knows what it did for her and her family. So, and she wants that. She is just, a real inspiration, and very, very humble. She's very humble. And so, when we have stories like that, we've got many stories like that, and they each have their own individual journey. So it's, some take the class and don't finish their community projects for whatever reason, and that's just fine. When they're ready, they will come and do the community project. And the community project is, after the class, you get to use your skills, and then you do a project that's your passion, whatever your passion is. And we provide you a small grant to do that. And you're able to demonstrate the skills that you have discovered. And, and it's kind of a way to give back to the community, because all the community projects are geared to help benefit their community.
That's amazing, and that story alone is just worth all the effort that you have put on in IPLI. We understand that the parents are often left out of the decisions and that are made for our children. How does your program help parents find their voice and get a seat at that important table that we always talk about here on Native Roots Radio?
Well, I'm a recovering school board member, and I had many parents come in to our school board meetings over the 8 years that I served, and very, very passionate about something that happened to them or their family. And so they come in to, express their concern or anything. And 9 times out of 10, they can't finish because they're either angry, they're mad, their whole point of why they came is lost, because it's so passionate for them. And so when now, these parents can come in there and they're ready to, their emotions are checked. They know what to do. They know how to self-regulate themselves to not get to that frustration or anger, and how to get their point across. And so much that we've had many of our cohorts go on local boards, councils. We've had many go on statewide, federal, philanthropy, and they go on these national committees on policy work, and they're there sharing their voice as a lived experience. And they tell them how this policy may or may not work for their family and why. And so it's just giving them the real, often how many times have you seen, committees where there's a lot of people there, but are there any, community members, parents, like you, to your point? No. So that's what this really does too, is it really prepares them to sit at those tables and be a professional advocate.
How long has IPLI been around?
Well, NPLI, the National Parent Leadership, has been around, I would say a little over 10 years that I know of, and maybe they've been around longer, but I know they were around in 2014. And our IPLI, I believe our first grant and cohort was in, 25. So I think 2022 was our first cohort. And we're going on cohort 4. And then we'll be doing cohort 5 in 2026. And the state of Minnesota is put out an RFP so that if communities want to implement PLTI or the Indigenous one, IPLI, they have an RFP out right now so that people, whether in urban or rural settings, could initiate their own. And we get the pleasure of working with the tribal ones. So
that's cool. So that brings us to, how does IPLI help connect parents back to their cultural identity? And we know by talking many times that how important that is for both sides of the table, but how important it is for our IPLI people.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we're Indigenous. We know that our culture is a healing and a protective factor. So that's, that's the beauty of it. And when we went to elders to ask them what those foundational teachings should be, they were very honest. And with that information, Dr. Anton Troyer was able to create that cultural curriculum, and he was able to kind of weave it into the NPLI or PLTI curriculum so that they kind of coincide. And one of the things that we did change, or adapt, I should say, not change, but one of the sessions was on ACEs. And, it was a very brief session, and the facilitators at the time said, no, we can't just spend 20 minutes on this, talk about ACE, and then move on as if, So they were allowed to adapt that session, and we go into it deeper, because you can't just talk about ACEs and and then move on, 10 minutes later. It's very traumatic to, remember, and there's a lot of blood memory out there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're very aware of that and respectful.
Our time flies by so quickly. Do you mind let people know how they can find out more information about this and about your business too? We got like a minute left, and if you could spit out some websites and Facebook pages and stuff, that would be great, Barb.
Sure. And if anybody wants to get a hold of me directly, my cell is 218-280-4372, and I'd be happy to talk to you about IPLI. My email is barb@indigenousvisioning.com, and our website is allnationsrise.com, and we're unveiling a brand new website in the coming weeks, so make sure you come and visit us there.
Well, I just want to say a big Peony Gigi as always. Thank you so much for coming on. Great to see you. Hey, and I love your posts on Facebook too. I'm following you and all the great work you're doing. And again, I just appreciate you coming on as always. We didn't get to talk about my favorite subject, those indigenous boxes, but we'll get you on again, even off we'll get you on again and we'll talk about
Please do it.
Yes. Thank you so much. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Robert.
Right on. We'll be back tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to the Little Moments Count radio podcast in partnership with community radio stations throughout Minnesota. You can find the Little Moments Count radio podcast wherever you get your podcasts and at littlemomentscount.org/podcast.